Happy 4th of July, America. Or anybody watching around the world who knows about the 4th of July and is curious about it, welcome to the show. Chamber of Progress hasn't been around for a while, but I figured 4th of July would be a good time to try to bounce back here. I noticed I just got a new subscriber. Thank you for subscribing. If you like my videos, if you like the content I produce, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell and choose all. That's the preferred one because you get every single one of my videos as a result of that. Today, because it's being the 4th of July, we're going to talk about a few things here. This is going to be a pretty long video, so please, I hope you have the patience for a little bit of reading time because we're going to do something that I personally have not seen done before, but I'm sure it's been done. But anyway, we are going to read word for word, article for article, the U.S. Constitution. Now that comes in the middle here, but at first what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of terms, freedom and liberty. Then we're going to do the constitutional read-through and breakdown. And then, finally, we're going to delve into a couple of terms that get casually tossed around. One of them, particularly, and that is patriotism and nationalism. These two terms tend to get conflated an awful lot. So I want to be able to describe them and distinguish them for people. It's very important to understand, not just on the 4th of July, but, throughout any period throughout the year, the whole year. It's something we should really examine as a country and learn the difference. And I have a phrase that I used. I posted this on Facebook and Twitter the other day, and I said, nationalists follow their country, but patriots guide their country. I think that's a very important statement, and I think that everybody should take that to heart. Everybody should recognize it. Even if you're not American, if you're Canadian, now Canada Day was a few days ago. Happy Canada Day to all my Canadian bros and sisters out there. If you're a patriot, understand you're guiding your country, but if you're a nationalist, you're just putting the blinders on and doing whatever your leaders tell you and believing whatever your media tells you or whatever. Anything where your respective national symbol is being waved in your face and you're just doing, just blindly accepting and following, that's a nationalist. But anyway, that's for a later time in the show. Today, freedom. Now, freedom is something that we hear about a lot in this country, and it really ultimately means different things to different people, and it's not an absolute term. So freedom. What is freedom? Well, it obviously means the absence of inhibition, right? That's the basic definition. But in context, it depends on who you talk to. So if somebody has the right to carry a gun, if they have the right to shoot somebody, for instance, then by extension, the freedom of the person who is the target of them exercising that right, would they have the right to stop them? Wouldn't that be infringing on their right? You can see the complication here, right? So the right to bear arms, by the way, is the second article of the Constitution, and it's something we're going to get into a little discussion about, but there's actually more interesting articles in this Constitution than just the right to bear arms. Article 15, I find, is particularly interesting here. But freedom and liberty, freedom, of course, is abstract. It's not absolute. It means different things. So if you want to be free to eat whatever you want to eat, then by extension, you should be free from, you have the freedom to eat what you want. You should have the freedom from inhibition from outside parties from preventing you from doing that, right? Okay, well, what about the right to love who you want to love? If you're somebody who's in the LGBTQ community, you know what it's like to be discriminated against based on your orientation. Or if you're somebody who was born a certain way, a woman, and you want to be a man, and you identify as male, then you should have the freedom to express that. And if you have the freedom to express that, who has the right to come in here and say to you that you don't have the right to do that? That's another thing we talk about later on in the show, because there's a specific part in here that says neither the federal nor state governments can infringe upon these rights based on the ideologies of those in power or any other forces that may be at work. And these are parts of the Constitution that routinely get violated. It just goes to show you that people don't care about laws in this country so much as they do exercising their own power because exercising their power and imposing it on people guarantees them future profits. That's really what that's all about. But freedom and liberty now, that's kind of a rundown of freedom. Freedom is more subjective than we make it out to be. And liberty, of course, is really, it's a cousin of freedom, I would say, a sibling of freedom, because when you're free and you are liberated, you know, liberty is kind of like the absence of inhibition. Same thing as freedom, but the knowledge that you can basically do certain things within the confines of the Constitution or even outside. And there is an amendment in this Constitution here that says any laws that are not on the books in the Constitution fall to the states and or the people. Basically means the people can make up their own minds and do whatever they want in regards to the issue under discussion. So that is really sort of a basic concept of liberty. Okay, so liberty and freedom are kind of hand in hand here. If you are free to do something, free to speak, say what you want, you are liberated from tyranny against speech, essentially. So this is a little bit of a nuanced thing. It's a very complex thing. It depends on who you talk to based on what their conception of freedom is. If someone wants the freedom to hoard money, hoard wealth, and they can be two different things, by the way, then by extension, someone does not have the freedom to infringe upon their freedom to take it from you. And that's another article in the Constitution that says, your personal property can't be used for public purposes without consent of the owner or by official legislation. We'll get into that later. But basically here, freedom and liberty is an individual expression, except for what's outlined in the Bill of Rights. Okay, not the articles following the Constitution, with a few exceptions. That's mostly guidelines and procedural mandates for Congress and the House and the House and the Senate, whatever. But after that little rambling, stumbling over my words quite a bit, we're gonna do our Constitution a bit of justice here, and on the 4th of July, Independence Day, we're going to now read through, word for word, the Bill of Rights and the Articles of the United States Constitution. Let's begin. The Bill of Rights, as provided in the first 10 amendments to the Constitution of the United States, effective December 15th, 1791. Okay, there's a couple little things at the top. They really aren't that important. Let's go to the first article of the Constitution. All right, here we go. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging freedom of speech or of the press, or the right to peacefully assemble, or it really, word for word here, it says the right of the people peaceably to assemble. Let's say peacefully assemble, it's a paraphrase, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Well, that's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, it's basically just saying you have the right to free speech, you have the right to address your government for whatever, like, hey, we have a bone to pick with you, we need to talk to you about something and all that. And of course, it says freedom from establishment of a religion here. That's pretty clear. It basically means that you can't have religious tests for offices. The government doesn't say we are a such and such nation, you all must be subscribing to this religion. You can't do that. You can't do that, despite what these far-right fanatics might say and what some of these states try to do on a regular basis. That's unconstitutional. They always get struck down in court. And also, abridging the free press. Look, the press, this is really important because Julian Assange is public enemy number one in the eyes of the government right now. They are infringing upon the free press, and they are infringing upon free speech. And not only that, but there's another article here later on that talks about how the Constitution can't be construed against foreign people from a foreign state. So that all comes into play here, and why the charges against Assange need to be dropped, and he needs to be released on his own recognizance. But anyway, okay, Article 2. Now, this is y'all on the right's favorite amendment, right? Here we go. Article 2, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right for of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Listen, the words the right to keep and bear arms is actually doing more heavy lifting here than we think. Because keeping and bearing arms can mean a lot of things. I mean, not everything calls for a gun. Not everything involves a gun. It's just guns have been around for a long time. We just tend to think of guns as what it means to keep and bear arms. You pick up a baseball bat. You pick up a crowbar. You take a kitchen utensil. You hurl a freaking refrigerator at somebody. You pick up a shield and try to hit them with it. I mean, anything. You pick up a beer mug and smash it over their face in a bar. That's keeping and bearing arms. So bearing arms is a lot more subjective than we think. And so I think we need to take this interpretation of it, which, again, people are not allowed by law here to interpret the Constitution in a way that suits a personal agenda when that agenda is in and of itself unconstitutional and, violates other people's rights. Unfortunately, I don't think these far-right militia groups got that memo, or they just don't care. But it basically says a well-regulated militia. Key words here, regulated. Well-regulated. Now, I know the right hates regulation, but as far as this goes, you need regulation. And a regulated militia, it really doesn't say here whether it's for the state or private militia, but it's the keeping and bearing arms that people on the right tend to single out and say, well, we have a right to have our guns. In broad terms, it can be interpreted that way. This is a rather vague portion of this amendment, and it needs to be cleared up. I think we need to have, a once every 20-year constitutional convention. Congress needs to mandatorily go and meet up for a constitutional convention once every 20 years and read over this thing and find out what needs to change, what we can keep, what needs to simply be augmented based on the times, because this can be changed. This whole document can be changed. And if we do it once every 20 years, which is once a generation, I think that's a pretty decent time. It's my own opinion, of course, but I think that's a decent time for to revisit the Constitution and find out what needs to change based on what's happening at the time and so on. I think it would be a much more fluid and more active democratic process overall. So, and ensuring freedom and liberty based on the interpretations of the time. Anyway, on to Article 3 here. All right, this is just so you all know, this is based on what the British were doing prior to the Revolution and during the Revolution. So, here we go. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Okay. This actually sounds a little contradictory. It says you can't use a private residence or a private place of business as your lodging unless by the consent of the owner, unless prescribed by law. Wait a minute. But if this is a constitutional right, why would there be any law prescribing to overturn it, or at least temporarily infringe on it, or God forbid permanently infringe on it? I mean, this is the thing here. This is a bit of a contradictory article to the Bill of Rights. But it basically says, in short, that soldiers can't be housed by private residents or places of business without the owner's consent. And notice here, excuse me, it says owner and not owners. Obviously, worker co-ops aren't taken into account here, but that's discussion for another time. Here we go to Article 4. All right. Article 4, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath of affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Hence the Miranda rights, why the police have to announce you're under arrest and these are your rights and everything. But also they have to say they have to knock and say we have a warrant to search the premises to seize such items and so on. That's why they have to do that. So no knock warrants, and the Patriot Act in general, really the Patriot Act, is essentially a violation of the Fourth Amendment. And I don't know why this hasn't been challenged in court. I'm trying to say, why is nobody challenging the Patriot Act using this amendment? Why is nobody doing that? It needs to be done. It's illegal. The NSA spying the seizure of innocent people, like especially the domestic people back in the early 2000s of Middle Eastern descent, who were held without cause, sent to Guantanamo Bay and whatever. That's all illegal. It's all illegal under this. So the Patriot Act needs to be challenged. It needs to be struck down in court because it violates this part of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. All right, Article 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentation of indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, hence, double jeopardy. Life or limb, okay. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. This last part there, some people may argue, well, if you take my money for Medicare for all, you're taking my private property. Now I don't want that. Well, look, just compensation is the key word there. Basically, what they're getting is health care that's free at the point of service. That is the just compensation. Because if you leave it as it is there, the money they use will be added upon as per determined by the healthcare providers, the insurance companies, big pharma. So they're price gouging you, right? Wouldn't you rather have less money for more and better care? That's your compensation. You're getting more for your money that way. So, and also the government has the right to tax. So that's the other part to this. But that comes a little bit later on. Basically what this is saying is, this is the amendment against self-incrimination, saying that you really can't be held against your will unless you have the actual charges formally brought against you. And the grand jury and militia. So it separates the militia, the military. That's why we have court-martials in the military as opposed to a civilian trial by jury. So there we have it. And it says that you can't have your life, liberty, or property taken without due process of law, of course, because it's your private property, it's your life, your liberty, your constitutional rights, and they have to tell you if charges are brought against you, what they have a warrant to seize. It says it doesn't say anything in the previous amendment about no-knock warrants. You can't have no-knock warrants. You just can't do it. It's unconstitutional to have those. Again, the Patriot Act needs to be challenged in court because of this. Anyway, let's move on. Article 6. I'm sorry if my hat is kind of getting in the way here. See if this will help. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory to have compulsory process of obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Now, this is why, of course, we have public defenders, right? And it's why lawyers have to share evidence with each other. They can't hide anything. They can't hide witnesses. They can't hide material evidence. They can't hide information of any kind from each other. Everybody has to know everything during a trial here, so that it can be fair and the judgment can be fair and impartial. So that's what that really means. It's kind of funny here too, because it doesn't say anything here about private lawyers, because rich people have like these fancy pants lawyers that they pay an arm and a leg for, that spin the truth all the time and paint them as pillars of the community, and the society needs them and things like that. Who died and made these people? Judge, jury, and executioner, quite literally there. But anyway, on to Article 7. In suits at common law, I don't know where in the hell the suits came from. That's kind of a funny phrase. In suits of common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20. Okay, shall exceed $20. The right to a trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. I don't know, this is a little bit of a goofy one to me. It says here that, you know, basically there's a limit to the monetary number in dispute over a court case, and it won't be revisited upon final judgment by the first court that heard it. $20. Now, what's $20 in today's money? I mean, $20 in today's money is like 2,000. This was like well over 200 years ago, so obviously it's more than that now. But anyway, this law is kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe they just were having a rough day, didn't know what to do, and just said, hey, let's throw this in there. Who knows? But anyway, let's see if this next one's more meaningful. Article 8. Now this is good, guys. This is really, 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 really important, okay? Listen up. Article 8. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. Guys, this stuff happens at the state level all the time. All the time. Excessive fines, cruel and unusual punishment, held without bail. Like, oh, your bail is going to cost you $1 million. This happens all the freaking time. So again, why is nobody bringing this up in court? Why is nobody bringing this up in court? So the thing is, it doesn't say anything about being held without bail. Okay, so bail shall not be imposed here, or excessive bail. But excessive is doing heavy lifting in this amendment. What is excessive? Okay, and this is what's left up to interpretations by the courts. I personally think, with the exception of, rape, murder, treason, things like that, really capital crimes, there should be no bail put forward. Like, you shouldn't have to pay to get out of jail. That's just stupid. But of course, you should be ordered to surrender any means by which you could leave the country, your passport, namely. So surrendering your passport should be mandatory for any kind of crime where you would be considered a flight risk. They usually do that. They're usually pretty good about that. So, but anyway, this law is constantly violated, and I don't think it's brought up enough in certain cases, especially when it comes to police brutality, cruel and unusual punishment. That's police brutality that happens in this country. They know they can get away with it because they know that they can't afford a lawyer. But again, you go back up to Article 6, it talks about having counsel for defense, right? But if you're a plaintiff, what about if you're a plaintiff? That's not what it says here. It only says counsel for defense. If you're a plaintiff, shouldn't you have a public prosecutor? Shouldn't you be able to go to the prosecutor? You can do that with the DA, of course. But, it gets a little bit more complicated there. But this routinely gets violated. Let me read this one again, because this is really important. Article 8. This is Article 8. We need to talk about this one a lot more. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. This is Article 8 of the Constitution of the United States, and it is routinely violated by red states all over this country. And in some blue states too, some of them, they do their own little bits of like, hey, I don't agree with this, so I'm just going to do it anyway, or I don't know about it, so it doesn't exist, or whatever, man. We need to be teaching this in school a lot better than what we're doing now. And we need to have something in place to really have secure guardrails against the government and law enforcement and the court system abusing this article to the Constitution, because they do it regularly. Article 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Okay, well, certain rights. Certain rights is doing heavy lifting here. What are certain rights? What are certain rights? That's too vague. The rest of it's pretty clear. It basically says here, you basically can't construe the Constitution to suit your agenda against people, for arbitrary reasons. You just can't do it. But that's where systemic racism comes into play, and why this, Article 7 and apparently 9 is, or 8, I'm sorry, and apparently 9 as well get violated on a routine basis because racism is powerful. It's a very primitive emotion that people have. They're like, I don't care about the Constitution. I just want to hurt these people because I hate them. And we're supreme. We're whack. You get it. But anyway, this basically says you essentially can't use the Constitution to infringe upon the rights of somebody else. That's what that means. Article 10, the final article in the Bill of Rights. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Okay, well, basically what this means is any law or procedure that is not in the Constitution or any state legislature can be left up to the people. If it's not in the state legislature, it's up to the people whether or not they do it. And this is where we get into the discussion about, well, what laws can we make that don't violate people's rights? Well, it's pretty simple here. It says you can't violate the laws that are in effect with this Bill of Rights, but those laws are still open to being changed. That's basically what this is. So if you change a law, for instance, the right to keep and bear arms is amended, okay, not done away with, but amended to specifically say, the right to keep and bear arms does not include firearms, military-grade firearms, or it doesn't include explosives or whatever. If you were to amend it that way, you're a little bit more specific. And anytime that you bring up the Second Amendment, you have more of a case depending on what is in question within that amendment. So there we go. So that, my friends, is the Bill of Rights. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution. What do we have next? I almost said aisle. I'm thinking of my place of work. What am I doing? Article 11. The judicial power of the United States shall not be construed to extend any suit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States by citizens or another state, or by citizens or subjects of any foreign state. Wow, you know what this means? This means that the law applies to everyone equally, whether you're a citizen or not. So if you're somebody in the country if you're somebody who basically hates certain people, like, oh, I don't like them redheads over in the Middle East, well, you can't construe the Constitution to try to persecute them. You can't do it. Or if you hate Asian people, I know Asian hate crimes are on the rise in this country. You can't construe the Constitution to be rigged against Asian people. You can't do it. Same thing with black people, LGBTQ people, women, immigrants, whatever. You can't use the Constitution to satisfy your hatred and your agenda against people that you don't like. That's what this says. Okay. Article 12 here. Oh my God. Article 12. This is Article 12 right here. Look how long that is. Wow. Okay. Here we go. Article 12 of the Constitution. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for president and vice president, one of whom, at least, shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. I believe what that means is whether it's president or vice president, they both can't be from the same state. They shall name in their ballots the person voted for as president, and in distinct ballots the person voted for as vice president. Whoa, wait a minute here. Does this mean the vice president has to be on a separate list, a separate ballot? What? Okay, whatever. That's a little strange. And they shall make distinct lists of all persons voted for as president, and of all persons voted for as vice president, and of the number of votes for each, which lists they shall sign and certify, and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, Open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. That's what they were trying to stop on January 6th. Anyway, onward. The person having the greatest number of votes for president shall be president. Sounds simple enough, right? If such number, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. Yes, okay. And if no person have such majority, then from the persons having the highest numbers, not exceeding 3 on the list of those voted for as president, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the president. In other words, if the election is too close that it really can't be decided, then the House of Representatives will vote by their own ballot to choose the president. But in choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member of members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. And if the House of Representatives shall not choose a president, wherever the right of choice shall devolve upon them, before the 4th day of March next following, then the vice president shall act as president, as in the case of the death or other constitutional disability of the president. The person having the greatest number of votes as vice president shall be the vice president. If such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if no person, have a majority, then from the 2 highest members on the list, the Senate shall choose the vice president. A quorum for the purpose shall consist of 2/3 of the whole number of senators, and a majority of the whole number shall be necessary to a choice. Majority. I think that I'm pretty sure that means just simple majority, because it doesn't say 2/3 after that. Just as a majority to a choice. But no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of the vice president of the United States. In other words, if you're not eligible to be president, you can't be selected as vice president either, because the chain of command works that if president resigns, dies, is removed from office, the vice president takes over by definition here. So you have to be eligible to be president. So the vice president chosen can't be, somebody who isn't eligible to be president. Okay, so it's long and convoluted, but in short, it basically says that in the event that an election doesn't go right, the president and vice president will be chosen by the House of Representatives, or rather the what is it? Yeah. Yeah, the House of Representatives chooses the president, and I believe in here it says. Did I miss this part here? Disability of the president shall be electors in the highest. The Senate. Yes, I'm sorry. I was rushing through. I kind of skimmed over this part. The House of Representatives chooses the president in the case of a botched election, and the vice president is chosen in the Senate. That's what this amendment says. So, if the House of Representatives has to vote on the president, then the Senate has to vote on the vice president. That's what basically what this amendment says. Oh, here we are. Article 13. We all know what this one is, don't we? This is getting a lot of attention lately, especially with our prison system, which is why this article needs to be reformed. But here's what it says right now. Article 13, Section 1, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Article 2, Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. There is a big loophole in here. So let me get this first part here. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist except as a punishment for crime whereby the party shall have been duly convicted. This makes slavery legal in the prison system. And it's why we need to amend this and get that language out of that amendment. This is another reason I said we need to have like a 20-year mandatory constitutional convention for reasons like this and others. But we'll get to that a little bit. But that's the 13th Amendment. It abolishes slavery except for in the prison system. And we need to get rid of that part of it. Right. Article 14. Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Wow! So, no person shall be deprived of their protections of the laws. Redlining, what about that? Right? Gerrymandering, what the hell is that all about? You're infringing upon people's rights when you do this crap. And also, no person. It says no person here. That means both rich and poor. So when these rich people commit crimes, as they do all the time on a white-collar level, they need to be held accountable. And they're not. They're given a free pass. Whereas poor people have the book thrown at them. So obviously the 14th Amendment is violated repeatedly by our own government, by the courts, because of the corruption. Well, that's not all. There's Section 2 here. Representatives shall be apportioned, I almost said appointed, apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. Okay, well, this language is a little passe. But Indian, my God. Racism. There's racism in this amendment. But anyway, but when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for president and vice president of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive and judicial officers of the state, or the members of the legislature thereof, is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state, being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, or in any way abridged, except for participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the proportion with the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in such state. Okay, that sounds really, really confusing here, but what it basically says, aside from the racist Indian thing here, is that if you're a white male 21 years and older, you have the right to vote in your state and on the federal level, and whatever population change occurs in accordance with the state, the number of electors can change according to that. So they do use the electors to compensate for the white males that vote. But this one has since been done away with, as we'll discuss later on in this constitutional reading here. So don't freak out over this. This one's been overturned already. Number 3, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector for president or vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. Personally, I think it should just be a simple majority vote, as we've seen with January 6th. This is really proving to be a problem because of the partisanship. And the thing of it is, corruption plays a huge part in why this isn't enforced today. Because it's Team Red versus Team Blue. one side's trying. The team red has all the determination; they're trying to win, and they're getting all the wins across the board. Team blue is essentially, because of the corruption, just paid opposition, right? They're just paid to stand there and appear like they're opposition. But in doing so, in carrying this part of the amendment out on the January 6th insurrection or anything Donald Trump did during his tenure, they would have been calling themselves out. So we really need something here that allows us to hold a collective number of representatives accountable all at once, because the corruption is just too big. But anyway, on to number 4 here, Section 4. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties of services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned, but neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss of emancipation of any slave, but all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void. Okay, well, basically what that says here is if you're financially supporting an insurrection, those payments would be considered invalid and wouldn't be recognized by the state. That's all that really says. Article 5. The Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. Okay, well, that's pretty straightforward, right? So that portion was basically in addition to Article 3, where it's basically said if you engage in insurrection, you can't run for office. Well, the Section 4 here basically says, any debts or payments received are considered invalid by the state if they aid an insurrection. So that's that. Okay, Article 15, Section 1. The right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Whoa! Here's a good one. Let me read that one more time. The right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. What does this mean? Gerrymandering is actually illegal under Article 15 here because of what it's used for. You understand that? Because it's used to disenfranchise certain voters based on the color of their skin or based on their history of voting a certain way. That's illegal under Article 15. Gerrymandering is illegal. It says so right here. Also, conditions of servitude. In other words, people who have been in jail or even are in jail shouldn't lose their right to vote. States do it all the time. Why is this being infringed so much? This article seems to be like one of those articles that's getting cherry-picked by conservative state legislatures just because they hate certain people. What is this? Why are these laws, why is Article 15 not being used much more in these voter suppression methods? Unbelievable. Well, that's a big one, man. This is one we need to be looking at a lot more when we talk about voting rights and gerrymandering and redlining and things like that, because clearly it's a violation of people's constitutional rights. Article 16. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. Okay. Well, basically that's easy. That's just saying Congress has the power to levy taxes, and it doesn't matter what portion of the state any state has. They can collect it according to how they see fit. And you can kind of understand why they did that, because state populations are different and they change all the time. I think they took that into account when they put this in here, which was smart. So that's a pretty straightforward one. Well, Medicare for all, they have the right to levy taxes on incomes, right? So if we had a wealth tax put into the Constitution here, you basically add on to that. But how can you classify wealth like a big house or a mansion or a boat or a private island as income? Well, you can make an argument for that, I suppose. I mean, when you have wealth that is used with the transfer of money, right? You get wealth in the terms of either tangible or intangible wealth. Well, that's still worth a certain amount to somebody somewhere, right? So that could be counted as an income, I suppose. But again, construing, you got to be careful with the construing here. But that's what the wealth tax is needed for, because it's a way that wealthy people skirt paying their taxes. Yeah, anyway, on to Article 17. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years. That's pretty straightforward. We all know this. And each senator shall have 1 vote. The electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislatures. Okay. So this is basically establishing the senators, right? The Senate. When vacancies happen in the representation of any state, by any state in the Senate, the executive authority of such state shall issue rights of election to fill the vacancies, provided that the legislation of any state may empower the executive thereof to make temporary appointments until the people fill the vacancies by election as the legislature may direct. This amendment may not be so construed as to affect the election or term of any senator chosen before it becomes valid as part of the Constitution. Okay, well that's basically just saying that you can't interpret it to meet your own selfish ends or ideological ends before it's become part of the Constitution once it's been passed and signed into law. But this is basically establishing how the hierarchy, the establishment and hierarchy of sitting senators works. Choosing your senators through elections, however it's appointed, in their absence and things like that. It's left up to the states. Article 18, Section 1. After 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, and transportation of intoxicating liquors within, the importation thereof into, or the exportation thereof from the United States and all territories subject to the jurisdiction thereof for beverage purposes is hereby prohibited. Well, this is pretty simple. It's prohibition. This is what prohibition, it led to bootlegging and the rise of the mafia in the 1920s and so on. It's considered a pretty romantic time by a lot of people. So, a lot of people love the mob movies or the jazz era of the 20s and things like that. The Roaring 20s. And also a little bit early in the 1930s, but, that is what it is. Number 2, the Congress and the several states shall have concurrent power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Well, that's pretty straightforward. Section 3. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of the several states as provided in the Constitution within 7 years from the date of the submission thereof to the states by the Congress. Basically, this article, it takes 7 years. If nothing's done with an amendment after it's proposed, it dies. If it's ratified within 7 years, or in the 7-year time span, by 3/4 of the states, it becomes law. But if not, it dies immediately, and you have to start all over again. That's what that means. All right, where are we at? Article 19. The right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on the account of sex. So, the women's suffrage, that's what this was. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. This is what basically gave women the right to vote. Now, you can make the argument this could be changed up. Okay, we need to, again, that mandatory 20-year convention I mentioned, 20-year mandatory convention once every 20 years that I mentioned. You could amend this to say on the account of biological sex, sexual identity, or sexual orientation. That would make a lot more sense given the times we're in. But this basically is giving women the right to vote. So now that article that said you must be male, white, 21 years and older to vote, that's basically null and void at this point. Now it applies to women. So there we are. Okay, Article 20. Most of the way there. Section 1. The term of the President of the United States and Vice President shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of senators and representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January of the year in which such terms would have ended if this article had not been ratified, and the terms of their successors shall then begin. Okay, well, basically that's simple. That's just saying, okay, January 3rd for senators and reps, you're out of there. Get out. The ones who were elected and defeated you in the election in November, they get to take over your job now. January 20th, same thing with the sitting president. We tend to, that almost didn't happen though because of the January 6th insurrection. These people were out of their freaking minds. Anyway, Section 2: the Congress shall assemble at least once every year, and such meeting shall begin at noon on the 3rd day of January, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Basically what this is saying is Congress only has to meet once a year. And it kind of explains why we see a lot of some of the representatives and senators that we like to hear talk, when they're using the microphone and they're up there at that podium or at their desk, whatever, you don't see a lot of, it's like empty seats behind them. It's like they're speaking to nobody. Well, it's simple, because Congress isn't required to meet when somebody's speaking. I got to be honest with you guys. I really think that we need to change this. I really believe that Congress should be assembled when somebody's speaking, because they need to hear what this person has to say. Because if they don't hear this, all they have to do is just ignore it and plug their ears, whatever, and just stick with their own ideology and their own agenda, and nothing ever gets accomplished. Nobody gets understood. And I think that's kind of I think this was one area where the people who established the Constitution dropped the ball, and I really think we need to have this mandatory convention and rectify that error. All right, but anyway, Section 3. If at the time, am I right here? No, wait. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't skip over anything. Section 3. If at the time fixed for the beginning of the term of the president-elect shall have died, the vice president shall become president. Well, that's pretty simple. This is establishing, the line of succession in case of incapacitation or death by a president-elect. All right. If a president shall not have been chosen before the time fixed for the beginning of his term, or if the president-elect shall have failed to qualify, then the vice president-elect shall act as president until the president shall have qualified. All right, well, that's pretty easy. Basically, let's put it this way. Jimmy Carter had to sell his peanut farm before he became president, right? If he hadn't done that, his vice president would have had to take over until he sold his peanut farm. Donald Trump, on the other hand, he wasn't made to sell anything. But if they hadn't made him sell all his businesses, all his shares, just get rid of it all, and he refused to do it, Mike Pence would have served as president until he did that. That's how that would have worked. So anyway, where are we? Okay. President shall have qualified. Okay. Wait a minute. Am I right here? Did I miss something? That's what Vice President shall have qualified. Again, damn it, I lost my place, I think. Fail to qualify, the vice president shall act as president until the president shall have qualified. All right, now I know where I am. And the Congress may by law provide for the case wherein neither a president-elect nor a vice president-elect shall have qualified, declaring who shall then act as president, or in the manner in which one who is to act shall be selected. And such person shall act accordingly until a president or vice president shall have qualified. So this is basically giving Congress the power to choose who acts in the stead of the president and or vice president or both until they qualify, like get rid of their businesses or whatever it is they need to do. If they feel like that's going to happen. So if somebody is running for president and they were elected and they were, say, underage, if their birthday came within the time span of of the timeline in question in the Constitution, then the Congress could decide, hey, well, let's let him be, and we'll just have the Speaker of the House serve as president until she becomes of age, he becomes of age, whatever, and then they can take over the duties at that point. That's what that's saying. All right. Shall have been qualified. Okay, now I know where I am. Section 4. The Congress may by law provide for the case of the death of any of the persons from whom the House of Representatives may choose a president whenever the right of choice shall have devolved upon them, and for the case of the death of any of the persons from whom the Senate may choose a vice president whenever the right of choice shall have devolved upon them. Yeah, that basically is saying that in case of an unresolved election, a disputed botched election, the House of Representatives chooses the president and the Senate chooses the vice president. That's how that would work. Now, they wouldn't necessarily be on the ballot. The best way to do it, I think, would be to have a ranked choice voting system, and the ones who were second overall in the general election, when there was a winner declared, that person, that duo, will be the ones taking over. That's how I think that should work. So anyway, on with this. Section 5. Sections 1 and 2 shall take effect on the 15th day of October following the ratification of this article. Okay, well, that's kind of useless. That's already done. Section 6. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by legislatures of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years of the date of its submission. Well, that's basically, again, that's going back to what it was saying before about the 7-year span of once you introduce an amendment to the Constitution, if it's not ratified by several states, if it isn't passed by the Congress and signed into law by the President in the meantime, if it's ratified by several states up within a 7-year span, then it becomes law. So there you have it. Article 21. Section 1, the 18th article of the Amendment to the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed. And in case people have kind of lost track, I know I'm rambling, the 18th Amendment was prohibition. So basically this is saying prohibition is now repealed. Section 2, the transportation or importation into any state, territory, or possession of the United States for delivery or use therein of intoxicating liquors in violation of the laws thereof is hereby prohibited. Transportation, law, or possession or delivery in violation of the laws hereby prohibited. Basically, that just means any previous law that existed enacting prohibition is overturned. They don't mean anything anymore. So, hey, get drunk. Yeah. Okay. Section 3. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the conventions in the several states as provided in the Constitution within 7 years from the date of the submission hereof to the states by the Congress. Okay, same thing. 7 years, ratified by 3/4 of the states to become law. Bing, bada, boom, bada, bing, bada, boom, done. Okay, well, that overturned prohibition. What about 22? Article 22 here. Section 1, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Okay, well, this happened obviously after FDR died, because Republicans were like, hey, people love these social democrats. If they keep winning, we'll never win again, so they had to do this, right? Hence why we've moved backwards since then. But anyway, twice as the sitting president. Okay, Section 1, no person shall be elected more than twice, and no person who has held the office of the president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. Okay, well, that's pretty clear. So if somebody took over for a president and served out the remainder of that term, they couldn't be elected again more than once. That's what that means. But this article shall not apply to any person holding the office of the president when this article was proposed by the Congress, and shall not prevent any person who may be holding the office of the president or acting as president during a term within which this article becomes operative from holding the office of the president or acting as president during the remainder of such term. In other words, they just have to wait for the remaining term to ride out once this law is enacted before it applies. That's all that's saying. Article 2. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall be ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years from the date within its submission to the states by the Congress. Same thing again. The 7-year span, the 7-year itch that people scratch. Like, will this become law? Will this die? What's going to happen? Okay. Article 23. Section 1. The district constituting the seat of government of the United States shall appoint in such a manner as the Congress may direct. District constituting the seat of government. This is basically the law that gives way to gerrymandering. That's what that is. This is a gerrymandering amendment, and it violates. They've used it to violate Article 15 of the Constitution. So, come on, man. Something needs to be more clear than that, because this law, right on its face, just on this first part, basically says you can disenfranchise voters. No. If you look back at Article 15, this amendment says the Congress can violate that amendment. What? That doesn't make sense. Anyway, it goes on. A number of electors. Am I right here? Yeah. A number of electors of president and vice president equal to the whole number of senators and representatives in Congress, in which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event more than the least populous state. Wait here. They shall. Wow, I'm getting a little. Okay, I'm reading a lot here. I know. Let me try this again. A number of electors of president and vice president equal to the whole number of senators and representatives in Congress, to which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event more than the least populous state. I see. They shall be in addition to those appointed by the states, but they shall be considered for the purposes of the election of the president and vice president to be electors appointed by a state, and they shall meet in the district and perform such duties as provided by the 12th article of the amendment. Okay. Well, basically, this is basically just establishing the electoral college is what this is doing. And again, this was a compromise. This really wasn't meant to be a permanent thing. They really couldn't decide, so they decided to just whip this thing together. And because the populations change, the number of electors can change. That hasn't happened in quite a long time. People just let it fall by the wayside. There's another reason why this needs to be done away with, because populations change constantly. Having a fixed number of electors doesn't make sense in that regard. So there we have that. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So they could, if they wanted to, overturn this with another amendment, or they could reinforce it with another law. But I say just overturn this damn thing. I mean, the Electoral College is garbage. It's outdated. It doesn't make sense. It's undemocratic. Let's get rid of it. Article 24. Section 1. The right of citizens of the United States to vote in any primary or other election for president or vice president for electors for president or vice president, or for senator or representative in Congress, shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state by reason or failure to pay any poll tax or other tax. This thing is important because some red states have tried to impose poll taxes in their respective states, saying states' rats. But this is the ultimate law of the land, and it says here, Article 24, you cannot impose a poll tax. You cannot coerce people not to vote. You cannot do that. So to these red states, shove it where the sun don't shine if you don't like certain people voting. This says you can't do that. So, piss off. People get to vote. Live with it. That's what this is saying. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Well, we know partisanship plays too big a role for that to happen now, don't we? Unbelievable. Article 25. We're almost done here, guys. Section 1. In case of the removal of president from office or his death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. Excuse me. Basically, that means the president resigns if he's incapacitated or assassinated, dies of natural causes, whatever. Well, then the vice president takes over. Period. And of course, as established by Congress, the line of succession here. Well, we'll wait on that. Let's read our section 2 here. Section 2. Whenever there is a vacancy to the office of the vice president, the president shall nominate a vice president who shall take office upon confirmation by a majority vote of both houses of Congress. Unlike judges, which only have to be done by the Senate, the vice president, in the case of the absence of a vice president chosen by the president, has to go through a majority vote. Majority vote of both houses of the House and the Senate. It doesn't say 2/3, so I'm guessing this is just a simple majority vote. Section 3. Whenever the President transmits to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives has written declaration that he is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, and until he transmits to term with a written declaration to the contrary, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the Vice President as acting President. Okay, well that's simple. If a President is, say, wounded, like recovering from a gunshot wound, if they're terminally ill, they got cancer, or they're battling, I don't know, COVID, for example, well then they just have to write to Congress and say, hey, I'm unable to do my job right now. Then the Vice President takes over. Simple as that. Section 4. Whenever the Vice President and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office of the as acting President. Okay, well that basically just is kind of an addition to what it said in the beginning of this amendment, where the Vice President takes over in case the President can't do his or her job. That's really it. Thereafter, when the President transmits to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives has written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume the powers and duties of his office, unless the Vice President and the majority of either the principal officers of the existing executive department or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit within 4 days to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Okay, this is basically giving the President a way of saying, hey, I'm okay now, I can perform my duties, here's my written declaration that I'm fine, but it says it gives them a 4-day window to do this. So if the declaration is made 4 days within that, he can write. He can make the declaration, "Hey, I'm fine now. Everything's okay." But even then, if the Vice President is still acting President, if the President's recovering from COVID or recovering from a gunshot wound or a surgery, whatever, well, then he basically just has to write to Congress and say, okay, I'm ready to go now. And 4 days later, boom, bing, bang, boom, he's back in office doing his thing. All right, anyway. Speaker of the House pro tempore, so declaration of duties, says charge of office. Okay. Thereupon, Congress shall decide the issue, assembling within 48 hours of that purpose, if not in session. Okay, 48 hours if not in session, so they have 48 hours to get their act together. If Congress, within 21 days after receipt of the latter written declaration, or if Congress is not in session within 21 days after Congress is required to assemble, determines by 2/3 vote of both houses that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall continue to discharge the same as acting President. Otherwise, the President, otherwise, the President will resume powers and duties of his office. Okay, I see. So basically, that gives Congress like a 21-day window to really get their act together and do this sort of thing. Otherwise, the Vice President will just continue to carry on. Or if the declaration is made to Congress and the Congress doesn't assemble within 21 days, well, then the President's declaration stands and they resume their duties. Otherwise, if he hasn't submitted that letter, then the Vice President continues to act. Article 26. Section 1. The right of the citizens of the United States who are 18 years of age or older to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of age. Okay, well, that's pretty simple. If you're 18 years or older, you get to vote. And it's a pretty general term here, meaning everybody. It really encompasses everybody. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. But you know what? Funny enough, they really shouldn't have to. But they have to because we're such a partisan and divided country. And like, we hate black people, so we don't want them voting. So these red states try to do that shit and violate the 15th Amendment to the Constitution. Incredible. Okay. Article 27. No law verifying compensation for the services of the senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives shall have intervened. Now, basically what that's saying is you don't get paid as a representative or a senator until you take that oath of office and you're sworn in. That's it. So, that, everyone, is a read-through of the entire Constitution. That is it. You can go back at any time and read this whole thing again and pick out whatever parts you may have misunderstood. Add comments in the bottom if you like. I know I was stumbling over some of that because it's a long read. It really is. But yeah, Article 15 gets violated an awful lot in our country. And it really shouldn't be the case. People should be standing up for that. They should be throwing a lot of this, the Basic Bill of Rights, particularly the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution with regards to the Patriot Act. Because, number one, Congress never officially declared war. They never really officially declared war. So the Patriot Act is actually illegal on those grounds alone. So people just blindly followed it. You know, they blindly followed that. And they blindly just say, hey, why are you gerrymandering? That's just not right. I don't agree with it, as opposed to it's unconstitutional. You do have some people saying that, but people don't stand up and do anything. It's amazing. It's really amazing. But this kind of goes into something. When people blindly accept something like the Patriot Act, what they're doing is giving in to nationalism. And this is the next part of our discussion. The difference between nationalism and patriotism. And it's like I said, nationalists follow their country, but patriots guide their country. So what does that mean here? Well, if you really look at the Patriot Act in its entirety and everything that's in there, you'll see how many laws of the Constitution it violates. And it really should have been struck down in court a long time ago. Along with the gerrymandering and the redlining things and the economic, because we really don't have any, aside from people not having their property seized, you know, and people's money is their property, their house is their property. It can't be seized without just compensation, put to public use and whatnot, or due process of law. Well, Medicare for All, of course, falls under due process of law if we get it passed. So there's nothing wrong with that, right? But anyway, when it comes to nationalism and patriotism, the nationalist will simply look at what their country's doing and assume it's right by definition and just follow it and go, yeah, our country's right because we're us, we're America. Therefore, if you don't go along with what the government's doing, you're un-American and you're a traitor and blah, blah, blah. Those people are nationalists. But then you come to patriots. Well, what do patriots do? Patriots say, our country is not doing something right here. It's violating the Constitution, or even this part in the Constitution might be wrong, you know. So we could fix this and move the country in a better direction. And they propose such solutions. Those are patriots. They're trying to make their country better. Nationalists, they don't care if their country's right, wrong, or indifferent. They just follow them regardless. So this white nationalist, Christian neo-Nazi ethno-state is a form of nationalism, national extremism. Patriots understand that this is not right. It violates so many constitutional rights, and they say, "Hey guys, that's not what's up here. You're violating so many people's constitutional rights with regards to this." And there was an amendment. God, I've already forgotten. It's like back in let me find it here. So, convention, restart. Wait, what is this crap? Oh, Article 1 of the Constitution. I'm sorry. The Bill of Rights. Oh, wow. The Constitution of the United States. Right down here. During a session, the coin majority, coin value. Oh, boy. I read through the whole Bill of Rights and missed this whole thing, section of the Constitution. Sorry about that. Let's see. Sorry to keep everybody waiting here. Election day shall determine this on the other. All right, Article 3. Judicial powers, full faith and credit shall be accredited. All right. I kind of skipped over something here. That's my fault, guys. I'm sorry. This was the Bill of Rights that I read over the first time. 26 of them. Or 27 of them, I'm sorry. But there was that, the Constitution of the United States here that I'd like to read over as well. I'm not going to go into any real description. I'm just going to read through it as best I can. But again, nationalism and patriotism. Nationalism is it's an exclusionary ideology encompassed in an inclusionary one, if you know what I mean. Like anything with the red, white, and blue stars and stripes, America, you wrap that around whatever's happening and say, well, that's what's up. And you follow it regardless of who it hurts or what benefits are involved or any combination thereof. You're a nationalist at that point. But if you look at that and you're saying, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right, this is violating the Constitution, or these rights are being violated through this amendment to the Constitution, and you change that, or this is just wrong in the Constitution, period, we need to change that by overturning it with another one, those people are patriots because they understand that the ideals of a free society, they change and they need to be changed with time, and the ways of the past shouldn't dictate the future and so on. So anyway, that's the difference there. So understand, whatever you might think of the United States of America, if you're an American, if you're not an American, whatever, understand the difference between nationalism and patriotism, because it's very, very, very important to understand as we move forward as a country. So anyway, it says here, Constitution of the United States. This is going to be a bit of a read here, so bear with me. Constitution of the United States. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, Medicare for all, promote the general welfare, hello, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. I know some people may be triggered by that, but hey, it's a free country, right? I can do that if I want to. You don't like it? Who cares? So anyway, let's continue. Article 1. I know this was said the Article of the Bill of Rights, but this is under the Constitution section. The other one was under the Bill of Rights. Article 1, Section 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in the Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Okay, well that's simple enough. Section 2. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. A person shall be representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years, and been seven years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. It should say in which they shall be chosen, because women can vote now too. So anyway, that's what I mean when I say that we have to have that convention to change some of this stuff. All right, where are we now? Where did I leave off? Okay, shall be chosen. Okay, representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states, which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers. Which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of 10 years, and including Indians not taxed. Okay, so they're including Indians here. Nice. 3/5 of all other persons. Okay. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed one of every 30,000, but each state shall have at least one representative. And until such enumeration shall be made, the state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose 3, Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence plantations 1. Okay, Rhode Island and Providence plantations 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4, Pennsylvania 8, Delaware 1, Maryland 6, Virginia 10, North Carolina 5, South Carolina 5, and Georgia 3. Now this obviously applies to the original 13 colonies, so it's since been, whatever. It's a relic of history at this point. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue rights of election to fill such vacancies. So basically the elections fall to the states there. All right. The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment. Very important there. Section 3. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Immediately after, they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election. They shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. I'm having trouble with this one. Let me try that one again. Immediately after, they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election. They shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. Okay, I think I'm getting that now. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration date of the 2nd year. Of the second class, the expiration date of the 4th year, and the third class at the expiration of the 6th year. So that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. And if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. Wow. Whew. That's quite a mouthful. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained the age of 30 years, and be 9 years a citizen of the United States, who shall not, when elected, been an inhabitant of the state in which he shall be chosen. The vice president of the United States shall be president of the Senate Am I reading that right? The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. That's basically saying the Vice President serves as a tiebreaker. The Senate shall choose their other officers and also a President pro tempore in the absence of the Vice President, or when he shall exercise the office of the President of the United States. This is kind of funny here. This is basically saying the President of the Senate is supposed to serve as a replacement for the Vice President. Okay. Uh, the Senate shall have sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 members of the President. That's what the 2/3 majority in the Senate comes in. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. Okay. There we go. Section 4. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. Okay. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meetings shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Well, dude, just say they can meet whenever they want, okay? What is this? Anyway, Section 5. Each house shall be the judge of elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and the majority of each shall continue a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under penalties as each house may provide. So basically, this is kind of going into the discussion about how they can go about assigning different meeting dates and different committees and things like that. So anyway. Okay. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and, with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. Yeah, why is Marjorie Taylor Greene gone already? Jesus Christ. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, accepting such parts as may in their judgment require secrecy, and the yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered into the journal. Okay. Neither house during the session of the Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two houses shall be sitting. Section 6. The senators and representatives shall receive compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases, except treason, felony, or breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during attendance at the session of the representative houses, and in ongoing to and returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place. Okay, well that makes sense. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, shall have been created, or, here's some, the emoluments whereof shall have been, they misspelled increased here, it looks like, have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuance of office. So basically just saying you can't be compensated by the Senate and serve in the Senate if you're a member of the House and vice versa and things like that. Section 7. As bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Every bill every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it becomes law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it with his objections to the House in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal and proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration 2/3 of that House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent together with the objections to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered. And if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law. Okay. Well, that's basically saying if a president vetoes a law, the House that Senate that it originated in can reconsider it and pass it again, and the other one requires 2/3 to pass to become law. That's what that really means. But in all such cases, the votes of both houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each house respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted. This is church. I thought separation of church and state was going on here. Come on. Except Sundays. After it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law, in like manner as if he signed it, unless the Congress, by their adjournment, prevent its return, in which case it shall not become a law. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and the House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the Senate shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. All right. Section 8. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, whatever that means, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. Okay, key here. In common defense and general welfare. Okay. Medicare for all again, right? At least that's what it should be. Of the United States, but all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Well, again, that's a good case for Medicare for all, isn't it? Right. To borrow money on the credit of the United States. Okay. To regulate commerce with foreign nations and among several states and within the Indian tribes. This is basically laying out the monetary options and responsibilities. To establish a uniform role of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. To coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin. And so you can accept foreign currency in this country if Congress decrees we can. That's what this says. foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. All right, weights and measures. I guess that's why we have the British system and not the metric system, although I could be misreading that. But anyway, to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and the current coin of the United States. So counterfeiters beware. To establish post offices and post roads. Roads and post offices, all right. To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. This is basically intellectual property rights, is what this is. To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court, that's basically the circuit courts. To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. Okay. To declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures of land and water. To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years. So when they appropriate money, basically it's only for 2 years. That's what that means. To provide and maintain a navy, obviously. To make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces. Right. To provide for the calling forth of the militia to execute the laws of the Union. Yeah, these right-wing militias aren't exactly doing that. And they're not state sanctioned, so they're illegal. They're actually terrorist organizations. Suppress insurrections and repel invasions. Well, suppress insurrections. Where was the National Guard on that day? Huh? To provide the organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively. That's basically just saying the National Guard and state-sanctioned militias. Respectively, all right. The appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. Basically, this is a uniform code that says states aren't allowed to have their different perspectives on and impose them into law as to how the military can act in certain in their respective situations. That's pretty uniform. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 square miles, as may by cession of particular states, and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of the government of the United States, and the exercise like authority over all places, purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested in this Constitution, in the government of the United States, or in any department of office thereof. Man, need some water here. All right. Here we go. Section 9. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit, shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808. I don't know why they did that, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation, not exceeding $10 for each person. The privilege of the right of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. Okay, now they really abused this with the Patriot Act because Congress didn't officially declare war. There was no rebellion or insurrection. So, the suspension of habeas corpus with regards to these detainees is illegal. It's unconstitutional. It's also illegal under international law. They require it. Okay. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. No No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration therein before directed to be taken. Okay. That basically just means no taxes can be levied without Congress doing it. That's all that is. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. No preference shall be given to by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another. Nor shall vessels be bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. Okay, that's basically just like state taxes and state rate, things like that. All right. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. And a regular statement and account of all of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. Well, that makes it so that we know where our money's going, right? Well, we should have the right to know where our money's going, and moreover, we should have the right to determine where it's going. Jesus. But here we are. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. Donald Trump, he was violating this on a regular basis, and a lot of people in Congress are violating this law, especially under AIPAC. Okay, that is a foreign state. Okay, Israeli diplomats dictating the course of our politics is illegal under the Constitution. Therefore, AIPAC is an illegal body and should not have any legal bearing on our policy. Unfortunately, it does because our Congress is corrupt. Anyway. Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, pass de facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws. Okay. And the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on the imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision of and control of the Congress. Okay. And last part of this article. No state shall, without consent of Congress, lay any duty on tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. Okay. But this immigration crisis they keep making up at the southern border. Oh, rain, break, crowd, being raised by these immigrants. Get keep on rain, rain, yeehaw, get your guns. See, they're misconstruing this part deliberately because they hate them. And that's wrong. What they're doing at the southern border is unconstitutional. It's a violation of the Constitution to a T. And it needs to be done away with. We need to stop this crap. Now, we do need to secure borders, yes, but not in this fashion. This is a violation of rights. It's a crime against humanity, what we're doing down there. Okay, anyway. On to Article 2. Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint, in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct, a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. Okay, to prevent conflict of interest, people who own a business or hold like a treasury officer or something like that, or any other kind of trust, basically average people have to be electors. That's what this says. You can't have anybody holding an office in government or a finance office of some kind related to that chosen as an elector. It's a conflict of interest. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom at least one shall not be an inhabitant of the same state within themselves. And they shall make a list of all persons voted for, and of all number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and submit sealed to the seat of government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. Okay. In the case of the removal, the President shall... Wait a minute here. I think I'm doing something here. The time here... I think I'm zooming over something. Okay. No, I thought I was rereading something and they split it up in a second. I'm not. I'm fine. Where am I? Okay. The electors as follows. The election of state of trust or profit. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, and at least not shall inhibit the same. Okay. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for and all the number of votes for each, which list they shall then certify, transit sealed to the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate House of Representatives, open all certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The persons having the greatest number of votes shall be the President, if such a number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if there be more than one who have such a majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately issue by ballot one of them for president. Okay, that's pretty easy. It basically says the House of Representatives will choose the president in the event of a tie. That's really what that says. All right. For a president, okay. And if no person has such a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list the list, the said House shall in like manner choose the president. I don't know why they spell choose with a U in this thing. But in choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by the states, the representative from each state having 1 vote. So basically, they just poll the delegation, and each state counts as 1 vote. That's what that means. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 the states shall be necessary to a choice. Okay, so 2/3. In every case, basically, I think what that means is 2/3 of the delegation has to be polled and to count as the 1 vote of the other. I think that's what that's saying. By choice. In every case, after the choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. Okay, in case of election shall be vice president. Okay. But if there shall remain two or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. That's why we have in November, like the first Tuesday of November or whatever it is. It says, no person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible for the office of President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. Okay. In case of removal of the president from office, or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the same shall devolve on the vice president. And the Congress shall by law provide the case for removal, death, resignation, or inability both of the president and vice president, declaring what officer shall then act as president, in this case the Speaker of the House. As such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed, or a president shall be elected. The president shall, at stated times, receive for his services a compensation which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period of which he shall serve, or he shall have been elected, and shall not receive within the period any other emoluments from the United States or any of them. All right. So the president's salary is all they're going to get for their service, and they can't get anything else. That's all that's saying. Before he enters into the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath of affirmation, and this is the oath the president takes. He has to repeat after the Chief Justice every time. Wait a second. Yep. Wow. Oh boy. This is a long read. Okay. What the hell? What the hell? Did I just miss it somewhere? God, man. Oh, there it is. I found it. Lost my place. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will do the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's what the President has to say. Section 2. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. When called into the actual service of the United States, he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments, which is the state governors, and it's upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have power to grant reprieves or pardons for offenses against the United States, except for cases of impeachment. Except for cases of impeachment. Whoa. So you can't do that. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. And he shall nominate, and with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls judges for the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, which shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. Section 3. He shall from time to time give the Congress information on the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses, or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them, with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. All right. Section 4. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Wait a minute here. This alone should automatically overturn Citizens United. This says bribery is not allowed. Citizens United is not a constitutional amendment. Why is it being allowed? Come on, man. Right there. Let me read that one more time. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Citizens United is basically a violation of the Constitution here. Something to keep in mind, guys. Article 3, Section 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall, in stated times, receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Okay, well, that's pretty easy. Section 2, the judicial power shall extend in all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, the controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign state citizens or subjects. Okay. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and councils, and those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as the Congress shall make. Here we got checks and balances between Congress and the court. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be trial by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the crime shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed. Section 3. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work. No attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. Section 4. I know I'm having a little bit of a hard time the longer I go here. This is a long ass read. This is god damn 2 hours this has been going on. Holy shit. Okay. This is Article 4. Let me just see how much I got left here, because I'm really kind of running out of breath. God damn. I have 7 articles total here, so I'm on Article 4. So I got basically I've got 4 more to go. Section 1: Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, and the Congress may by general laws prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved, and the effect thereof. Section 2: The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges, immunities, of citizens in the several states. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or crime who shall flee from justice shall be found in another state, shall on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled be delivered up to be removed from the state having jurisdiction of the crime. No person held in service or labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping to another, shall in consequence of any law or regulation therein be discharged from such service of labor, or shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service of labor may be due. Section 3. New states may be admitted by the Congress to this Union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the junction of 2 or more states or parts of states without the consent of the legislatures of the states concerned as well as Congress. Of the states concerned as well as Congress. The Congress shall have the power to dispose of and make all needed rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. Funny, they do that all the time. Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this Union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence. All right. I know this is taking a long time, guys. This is a really long one. Okay, Article 5. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to the Constitution, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states or by conventions in 3/4 thereof. As one or other, God, I'm losing it here. As the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the ninth section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. Right. Article 6, almost done here. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under the Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath of affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public test under the United States. Yeah, for all you Christians out there, right-wing Christians that is, who thinks that we're white, God-fearing Christians, we need backers, no. There can't be a religious test for office, and you better get used to that because that's the law of the land. All right, Article 7 is the last one. The ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states so ratifying the same. I know I'm not describing this the best, guys. So if you have a little trouble, go back and see if you can, piece it together in your own best way. I'm not doing this again. Done in convention by the unanimous consent of the states present, the 7th day of September in the year of our Lord 1787, and the independence of the United States of America, the 12th in witness whereof we have hereunto subscribed our names. Oh, okay, so this is what this is. Names: George Washington, President and Deputy from Virginia. All right, well, we got that one. Who's next here? In convention, Monday, September 17th, 1787, President. Okay. The states of New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Mr. Hamilton from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia. Well, Virginia was after Maryland here. Sorry, paraphrasing. Resolved that the preceding Constitution be laid before the United States in Congress assembled, and that it is the opinion of this convention that it should afterwards be submitted to the convention of delegates chosen in each state by the people thereof, under the recommendation of its legislature for their assent and ratification, and that each convention assenting into and ratifying the same should give notice before the United States in Congress assembled. Resolved that in the opinion of this convention, that as soon as the conventions of 9 states shall have been ratified, this Constitution of the United States in Congress assembled should fix a day on which electors should be appointed by the states, which shall be ratified the same, and a day on which the electors should assemble to vote for the president and the time and place for commencing proceedings under this Constitution. That after such publication, that after such publication, and electors should be appointed, and the senators and representatives elected. That the electors should meet on the day fixed for the election of the president, and should transmit their votes, certified, signed, and sealed and directed as the Constitution requires, to the Secretary of the United States Congress assembled. That the senators and representatives should convene at the time and place assigned. That the senators should appoint a president of the Senate for the sole purpose of receiving, opening, and counting the votes for president, and that for all shall be chosen, the Congress, together with the president, should, without delay, proceed to execute this Constitution by the unanimous order of the Convention, George Washington, President, William Jackson, Secretary. Wow. Okay, guys. I flipped the Bill of Rights and the Constitution around. I didn't start back to front, so I hope you'll forgive me for that. But that is apparently word for word the Constitution of the United States. I figure there's no better way to do this and no better time to do this than on Independence Day, July 4th. I'm sorry. I've lost it, man. I've read so much. But please feel free to go back and look at any of my statements. If you have trouble kind of deciphering anything, feel free to say anything in the comments section. Take whatever you want, upload your own video and do it if you want to. I tried my best here. But, yeah. So understand, once again, freedom and liberty are a little more subjective than what's laid out in this Constitution, as it said, affirming the rights of the states and the people. And don't confuse nationalism with patriotism. Remember, nationalists follow their country, and patriots guide their country. So once again, happy 4th of July, everybody. Be safe out there, celebrate, and don't lose sight of what we're really all about here. America is a country that's constantly changing. I have my opinions about how things should work. I've mentioned some of them, and I'll mention some more in later videos. So, happy 4th of July. Be safe. God bless everybody.